you really have a kind of post-apocalyptic feeling taking over in Israel right now. And part of that is the absence of clear messaging from the government.
Let's bring you up to date with the latest from Israel, where the government has officially declared war on Hamas after terrorists launched a surprise attack on Israel yesterday morning. Now, Israeli media is reporting that the death toll has reached more than 600, and the Gaza Health Ministry has said 370 Palestinians have been killed. One British citizen has also been killed, and 2 are missing. Noga Tarnopolsky is a journalist based in Jerusalem, and she joins us now. Noga, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Alexis.
Tell us what the latest is on the ground from Jerusalem.
Well, it's a complicated scenario here. The whole country is basically in something between shock and war footing. So shops are closed. I wandered around town. I didn't find one cafe, one restaurant. The schools are closed today, and it's just been announced they're going to remain, schools nationwide are going to remain closed for another 2 days. And slowly, as the tallies emerge, and they're coming out very slowly, I think the dimensions of this attack are just starting to sink in. So 600 dead and counting. Absolute bloodbath at a rave in the desert. It was this kind of nature party. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the British citizen who was killed there. 240 bodies were found today at the site of this desert rave. And it's going to get worse. The other thing that is beginning to really sink in is the magnitude of the Israeli losses in terms of hostage taking. Entire families are gone. The Israeli government has established 2 separate hotlines, one for soldiers who no longer respond and one for civilians. And I don't have official numbers, as I'm telling you, nothing's been said, but my guess is that it's going to turn out there are well over 100 Israelis who were taken alive by force by the Hamas militia from their homes, from their communities, and are somewhere in Gaza right now.
What about the Israeli people, Noga? Do they feel that they have the information that they need for those who are closer to the areas of conflict? Are they in contact with the army? Have they been evacuated from villages that could potentially be in danger? Are the Israeli citizens getting the help and information that they need?
I have to tell you the answer is pretty much no. It's not an absolute no. For example, the Israeli army put into place today a plan to evacuate not just villages, in some cases cities or towns in the south of the country, which is 1/3 of the country, certainly those places that are closest to the border. And now we're hearing that in the north of the country, in other words, near the border with Lebanon, where the Hezbollah militia rules, that is allied with Hamas, the mayor, the authorities of the biggest city up there, Kiryat Shmona, they haven't obliged, but they've recommended that their citizens evacuate, and that the army is considering a major evacuation there too. So what we're talking about is evacuations over more than half the country. It's unclear to where. And the information is coming out really in drips and drabs. You have many people just even calling radio stations desperately to say, we haven't heard anyone. We need the army to reach out. Where is everybody? We have Israeli social media, not just the radios, are flooded with images of especially young people, but not only, also grandmas who vanished, who no one has heard of, pictures of them, the phone numbers of their relatives. You really have a kind of post-apocalyptic feeling taking over in Israel right now. And part of that is the absence of clear messaging from the government.
Now, Noga, of course, it's going to be too early to see why the Israeli army seems so unprepared, or why intelligence seemed to have missed this attack. But there is one question that is being asked from many corners of Israel and citizens of Israel, that the army seemed to be not present in the areas where the attacks happened. And some are putting two and two together and saying, well, the army was pushed to surveil the areas, the occupied areas in the West Bank. And again, for those of us who are unfamiliar perhaps of what has been happening in Israel, how the army has been deployed, can you just shed some light of what may have happened?
Yes, and I want to actually congratulate you in a way, because it's so hard to understand these internal issues and the internal calculations, and also the political crisis that has engulfed Israel during the last year or so. And all of that has to bear on your question. Um, Prime Minister Netanyahu has been prime minister a long time, is on trial, is beleaguered, and he formed this latest government on December the 29th with very, very, very extremist nationalist partners, people far beyond the consensus of Israeli politics. And he did this in the hope that he would be able to give them something they wanted, and they would protect him from his trial. So they immediately launched on what they have called a judicial reform that has basically torn Israel apart. What did they want from him? They want Israel de facto to annex the occupied territories of the West Bank, which they consider kind of God-given homeland of the Jews. And so there are very, very serious accusations already being aired. I just interviewed Professor Gidi Rahat of the Hebrew University, who said to me exactly what you just suggested. He said, right now, I'm sorry I'm reading my screen, but I just spoke with him. He said, right now, everyone's angry at the army, and clearly mistakes were made. But as he said, as what really happened becomes clear, and as when people begin to understand who ordered the army to move forces from the Gaza border to other places, then we'll see. In other words, it wasn't to surveil in the West Bank. What Netanyahu's partners and he himself have wanted is to push the army to basically protect narrow Jewish nationalistic interests in the West Bank. And Israel's border security has been the victim of that, and now Israeli citizens. So I think even politically, we're in an extremely volatile time.